Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart-centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Wendy Vaughan, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. I will explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right, I have as my guest today, Andrew Quebbemann. Now, Andrew is a financial advisor who helps everyone who is looking to grow financially. So welcome, Andrew. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thanks for bringing me on, Wendy. Great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to not only discovering more about the work that you do within the financial sector to support people, but also I'm curious about your journey as an entrepreneur, because everybody's journey is a bit different. You know, we're all individuals and leading our own lives, and serendipities happen. One door opens, another one closes, all sorts of exciting things in life. And typically the entrepreneurial journey includes lots of what I call opportunities in air quotes for personal growth as
Yeah.
well. Business and personal growth pretty much go hand in hand. So let me ask you, do you feel like you're, basically the same person now as when you started out as an entrepreneur?
No,
No.
to put that simply.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I've had
it's
very few people say, yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I'm like, really? So,
yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of, like you mentioned it, there's a lot of learning that happens, and for when I I accidentally became a financial advisor, so that wasn't necessarily on purpose from my part. I was in corporate America in the biotech and pharma world,
oh,
and
okay. Yeah, that is a different sector.
yeah,
Biotech and pharma, financial. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I guess you can say, money is the root of everything there, but at the end
True.
of the day, the mission, what I had gotten into initially with corporate America in the pharma and biotech area was I got behind the idea that I am there to help people, and I am there in my own way. And no, I was not close to a patient, so I was pretty far from point of care, but I was doing my part to further that mission.
Yeah, exactly.
And that kept me going for a while. But then about 3 years ago, we get to this time of year, and this time of year, I like to do a recap and write
Mhm.
down things that I'm grateful for what happened in the year, things I've accomplished that I'm proud of, because I just find that one, it's for me, it's helpful to start from a place of gratefulness, just because you get towards the end of the year and you just kind of get feeling exhausted. It's like, well, actually, hey, I did quite a bit. So, and then I also take the time to write down what I want to learn or do or accomplish the next year
Mhm.
coming.
Mhm.
And that
So
particular year,
progressively, it's been, so that particular year, you're still in the pharma. So this
yep,
was back then. Okay. I'm
yep, so still
following.
there, but I'd written
Yep.
down I wanted to learn more about finance.
Mm,
So I had a financial advisor at the time,
okay.
but I actually had already fired one because of we'll call it a miscommunication. Uh,
Okay. Sounds like you're being politically correct, but we'll take that.
yeah, let's just say I got a tax bill all of a sudden that I was not expecting, and we did some things we could have avoided that one. But
Yeesh. Yeah, not good.
so I didn't have the best experience with it, but I felt that I had things to learn. I wanted to progress in my career. I wanted to do different things. I'm like, well, I'm doing some things, but I felt personally like I was missing knowledge. Like I could take more responsibility for just my financial future in general.
Right, right.
So then we fast forward to August, and I get a call out of the blue from a company saying, "Hey, we'd like you to come on and be an advisor with our team." I was like, "Why?"
An advisor, a financial advisor
A
for the team?
financial advisor.
Wow.
So all financial advisors, at the end of the day, we have to hang our licenses. We have to associate our licenses with a legal entity that's approved by the SEC, right, and the
Okay.
federal government. So at the end of the day, no matter big or small, everyone has a legal entity that their license is associated with. So that's kind of how it works. Even though individually, everyone has their own practice
Got it.
and how they
Right. There's
manage.
still a regulation, or yeah,
Yeah.
regulatory.
But there's consumer protections in place for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, we want you to come on. And I said, well, why? And it's like, I don't know anything about finance. I was a biology major. I just spent a lot of, 10, 12 years in the biotech and pharma industry. Like, I know what a stock is, but that's kind of it. So we got to talking and I learned more about the opportunity. And basically it came down to, that same mission where I was with the biotech and pharma, where I wanted to have a larger outsized impact on my community. I wanted to help people around me get better. So in this case, it's more figurative than literal, right? So it's not health related,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still the community impact combined with some other aspects about the career and taking, more control and really just trying something for the first time. So I talked with my wife. We couldn't think of really any reason not to try it, and I dove in head first. And it was, I still maintain it was a really amazing decision, and I cannot say how happy I am to be here doing this today.
That is amazing. It's almost like you were, like a big door opened and you were kind of sidestepping it. Well, are you sure I should go through that door? I don't know. And it turns out to be something that has really resonated with you and provided that sense of fulfillment and obviously making that difference for others. So now, how many years ago was that?
So that
And
was just about three.
oh, 3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So going forward, then stepping into, so that was an advisor
hmm
for a large corporation.
hmm
So since then, you've pivoted or expanded, maybe is the right word, to also include individuals that you're financially advising for.
Yeah, so the big shift for me was again, like any business, you've got the option to go and support the clients that you want to, right? That's one of the cool things about being an entrepreneur is
Mhm.
it's your business, and as long as, money's coming in the door, then you get the ability to pick and choose who you want to work with. And I think that's a really powerful part of being an entrepreneur. One of the fun parts is you get to, include the people in your life that you want to. So the big change for me was transitioning from primarily an insurance aspect of financial advising to being more broad scope and being able to approach. So the more I learned, the more I kind of figured out how I want to work with people.
Yeah, because the financial space is huge. There's earning, there's saving, there's retirement, there's projections, it's totally different for businesses versus individuals. So yeah, it's a
Right,
huge space.
exactly. So that was a big shift for me was bringing on some additional learnings and licenses for myself to be able to sit down with someone for the first time, have a conversation, and you can solve, like, there's obviously some core foundations, but you can really solve things in a way that makes sense for the individual rather than kind of doing a blanket approach.
Mhm.
And so now I get to do that every time I sit down with someone is it's fully focused on just the people that are in front of me. And that is really cool to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really tune into what their specific needs are and their fears and what they're ultimately wanting to achieve. So, well,
Mhm.
I'm curious, what is, because money is one of those things that it comes with a lot of baggage. There's
Yeah,
scarcity, there's, hanging on to it with the white knuckles, there's those that just like, "Eh, I made it once, I'll make it again." There's lots of different types of beliefs
sure,
associated with money.
sure.
So I'm curious, what are some common incorrect beliefs that people have that land them into a situation that would be easy to avoid? Like,
Mhm.
and that's really an open-ended question. I'm not intending to have you like we only have 20 minutes here, Andrew. So
Yeah,
I know that was a
exactly.
deep question, but I'm just what I'm looking for is, so many people, it seems anyway, through my perspective, struggle financially.
Hmm.
And so, what are some of those common misunderstandings about money that keep people struggling?
Yeah,
At
that's
your expert level, your perception, not the obvious stuff. Oh, well, they buy too many things on credit card, and they some of that basic stuff. But I'm just wondering through your expert perception.
that's a wonderful question. I would say in general, and I would wrap the whole of the financial services industry around this part, is we are not like plumbers. And when I say that, I mean if the pipe is burst and the water is gushing out, it's usually too late for someone in my position to do anything about it. We can
Mhm,
mitigate maybe pieces of what's happened,
mhm.
but time is your biggest asset.
Yeah.
And that's irrespective of whatever instrument that you want to talk about for, what we have available to us. And so I think when someone comes to me or is introduced to me and we're working together, I hear a lot of, oh, I know I should have done this, or I could have done that,
Hmm.
or, I know that insert here, right? It's the same kind of stuff that you go to your dentist says, why aren't you flossing? I'm like, I know, doc, I should be flossing.
Right.
And I would say in general, like my position on this is there's no shame in a dollar. And what I mean by that is when you come and talk to me and you say, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. Well, maybe, but I'm not here to judge you, and we certainly can't fix what has happened. And money is a tool. It gives us or it purchases for us options and flexibility.
Right.
That's
Okay.
it.
Hmm.
Start and finish. It's not mad at you. It's not out to get you.
It's
Um,
it's
it's
not
not
your enemy.
yeah, it's just there. Right. And that's all we're doing with it is we are trying to create options and flexibility so that when you look at your finances, you feel like you have the ability to respond to your environment the way that you want to,
Hmm.
rather than have that dictated to you.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
So
Absolutely.
that's, I think, that seems to be the biggest misconception when people come and sit down is they feel ashamed or they don't, maybe we're talking when we're 55 instead of when we're 35. If you're
Hmm.
coming to me at 55 and say, hey, can I retire in 5 years? That's still a pretty important conversation to have,
Yeah. Right.
you know.
Right.
So, very few 20-year-olds come to me.
Well, and I guess that was my next question. What is that, uh, for lack of better words, the wake up call, or what is the prompting? What is the thing that sparks people to say, "Oh, I need to talk to Andrew"? It's, is there a common trigger that a lot of people face? Because not all of it, like you said, yeah, we know we need to floss, but do we? The same kind of thing. So is it just that certain people are brought up knowing, hey, you got to manage your finances and you need somebody to help you? Or is there something that happens that you see a pattern that causes people to wake up and say, "Oh my gosh, we need to get this our financial situation mapped out."
Yeah, another great question. I think the two biggest reasons that people reach out to me in somewhat of not a panic, but they have a sense of urgency, the beginning of life and the end of life are the two biggest reasons. So the birth of a child or the pending birth of a child is a
Mhm.
big one, because to that point, most people don't have a trust set up, they don't have a will set up. They maybe have hired a CPA and they've maybe been contributing to a 401k. That's probably it.
Right.
Now they're about to bring on another responsibility, another mouth to feed. And so that prompts the conversation.
Hmm.
That's the big one on the front end. On the back end, it would be a loved one has passed, either expectedly or unexpectedly, but then they have to go through the process of dealing with the estate.
Hmm.
And no matter how big or small, that can take time. It can take a lot of effort. Depending on what it is, we might have to, the time part gets compounded by how long the government takes to get through some certain aspects of it. And obviously we have to pay two mortgages or all the things or long-term care bills come into play. Um, so those tend to be the primary drivers for the
Sure. Yeah.
conversations.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So then after working with you, so before they don't have a real clear plan, I'm assuming, and finances aren't necessarily clear and organized and they're friend. So
Mhm.
can you tell me, what does life look like after working with you? And I know that depends on whether, well, is it a corporation, a business, individual, where are they at with their life? I know there are a lot of variables because you work with so many different types of clients, but
Yeah.
just in a nutshell, what's the transformation?
After working with me and my team, clarity is the number one thing that we provide. So there are certain foundational elements that we'll put in place. Then there's going to be individual pieces that may change. And believe me, like it's okay, like plans change. Maybe someone doesn't want to go to college. Maybe they do want to go to college. Maybe the price of the house changed, the jobs change, all that kind of stuff changes. But at the end of the day, after working with us, where we take you from, hey, I think I'm doing enough, but I'm not sure, right? I'm getting a company match, my 401k, I feel like that's going to be enough. Well, we take the feel out of it. We know, is it going to be enough or not going to be enough?
Yeah. So they have confidence,
Yeah. If
not
something
only
happens to
clarity,
us,
but confidence and
yeah.
and a little bit of certainty, which in this day and age is huge.
Yeah. And listen, no plan is ever 100% going to
Sure.
cover all base points.
Right.
But if we can cover some of the major ones, like if we get fired and now we have to come up with expenses for 6 months, stuff like that, like life happens.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the major misconceptions. You know, people only think other people die. And I
Yeah.
cannot take credit for that quote. But I invite you listening to this to say that back in your head again. Because if 1 out of 4 people this happens to, or 1 out of 2, or 1 out of 6, or 1 out of 10, not to be a doomsdayer, but you could be the one.
Part of
So,
life. It is. It just is. Goes with life. It
yeah,
happens.
right. So that's where I think we provide the biggest value is the clarity, the confidence, the ability to approach retirement on your terms. You don't want to run out of money. You don't want to spend too little money and have regrets that you could have done something that you didn't
Mhm.
because now all of a sudden you're passing on way more money than you anticipated. And like, well, I could have done that trip to Italy or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Let's plan
Well,
for it.
I think another big misbelief, in my opinion, is that they don't make enough to have a financial advisor. I
Sure,
believe that's a misbelief.
sure.
Is that true?
Yes,
Like,
that
at
does.
what point does somebody say, you know what? I need to get a better plan here. I'm making enough to where, or is it enough, or is it just simply, like you said, a life event,
Hmm.
birth of a child, or somebody, a bigger plan that they want to now, take consideration around. Is
Yeah,
there any sort of a bar, or, like, oh, I'm only making 150,000, so nope.
I would say so. A couple of things to that point. No, there is not too little money that you would make that you would have the conversation. Now, I will say to people, based off everything that we talked about, I'm not the best fit for you. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like, my service or where I'm good at may not be a great fit for where you stand,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that you still can't get value out of the conversation and have an understanding from a professional perspective on, okay, so I'm here. If I want to work with him or someone like him, we can, we have to get to here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
But if we
Yeah.
make 150K, I wouldn't say there's a hard and fast. But I would definitely encourage talk to myself, talk to a professional in the industry because AI and the internet in general, there are answers out there, but then there are individual situations that are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Sure.
that, as far along as AI has come, I would still say, look at that information with some skepticism
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the job of AI is to do massive data aggregation and produce averages back to you.
Well, and it's all like everyone says, I know, but it's still the truth. It's only as the output is only as good as the input, the
Correct.
prompt. So, and there, we had this argument with my husband and son just over Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
you know, two different answers came out. I was like, see the point. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, an advisor like yourself has the ability to intuitively and ask those questions, right, and find out the relevant information. So, and I would just love to. I don't know if it's possible, if you could just share a story with us about a client who you've worked with that, kind of a little bit of their situation before working with you, and then what their life was like after, if that would be possible, just so we get clarity around, you know.
Sure. Sure. So, I like this story because this really encapsulates why I really enjoy doing what I do. There is I guess, a friend of a neighbor, and we started chatting. As a young couple. And they came to me at first. They said, we've got this job, we've got this job. Their income was good. They were making progress on retirement, and asked them some questions, and they said, what does your ideal retirement look like? Have you ever thought about it? And they said no. And we kind of drilled through that a little bit and provided some guardrails for us to shoot for.
Mhm.
And we came back and said, okay, we're about, you know, some percentage short of where our retirement goals are. That's fine. Here are some adjustments that we can make to get there, and we're going to kind of work on this over time. And so we'd left it at that. So we'd set up the foundation. We made use of what we could make use of, and then with the understanding that when the time comes and with the work that we're going to do together, we're going to add pieces as we can. About 4 or 5 months later, I got a call from her, and she said, Dad died.
Mhm.
It was unexpected, and I knew him. He was, again, a family friend, and it's tough because none of us saw it coming. And she knew that I had talked to him once before he had passed, And she said, do you know anything? Like, can you help us get through this? Because we don't know what to do. We don't know what all this information is and everything. And I said, we only had the one conversation, but let me see, what we can do. And, so I wasn't able to provide like a lot of that stuff. So that's why, like, I talked about estates and wills before. That's
Hmm.
definitely always part of this conversation. But, dad had happened to have some life insurance. It wasn't a ton, but what we were then able to do is it settled everything down, and I helped her through the stuff that she needed to do with probate for where I could. Obviously, a lot of this is still on her and her family to work through some of this, but
Hmm.
I just helped provide some of that guidance that way and how to make sure we're staying funded, everything's on track. Okay, cool. And then once that dust had all settled, the house was still up for sale, so we still had the second mortgage that we had to pay for. But then we talked about what to do with some of this life insurance money. We ended up taking that onto the plan, and it changed her from, a percentage to retirement to now we were 100% plus. So we went to overfunding their
Mm,
retirement with some of the things that we were able to do and put in place.
sure.
And
Yeah.
for
No, that
her, like in that situation, my job or my goal is to be there on what is like for her, that's one of her worst days of her life. And my job is to be there to be that presence alongside, to help, her get through that and give
right.
her the time and space to grieve emotionally and do all the things that otherwise happens outside of just money. So she doesn't have to worry about that part.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's huge to be able to provide that certain level of comfort and support because finances can really create a lot of stress at that time. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I love that. And you're obviously very passionate about doing this work from the moment that you like, should I take this? Should I do this? To 3 years later, you're loving this. And I'd love to hear your secret because what I've seen over and over during the 7, almost 8 years of coaching entrepreneurs is that, frequently the frustrations and challenges of building a business
Mhm.
plus inconsistent results dampen that original passion.
Oh yeah.
But, that type of struggle is definitely absolutely not necessary, which is obviously why I love being a business coach, because I know that with just like you, with the right strategy,
Mhm.
and support, that you absolutely can have that thriving, successful, profitable business. So back to the passion that I, detect from this work that you do. What
Mhm.
is your secret for just staying hungry for serving and being of service and refueling that initial spark of like, yeah, this is fun. This is I like doing this.
Yeah. I will say on the off, it's not always easy.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying, because there are these and there's up and it.
Yeah, there have definitely
Building a
been
business is not easy.
my secret to success has been the people that I have surrounded myself with. And when I say that, first and foremost, that's my wife. Secondly, of two great friends or three great friends, Joe, Randy, and Lars, right? I have different individuals outside of my day-to-day finance work. I've got a couple people inside as well, but I've found like it's easy to find people that are doing what you do and you can kind of get some mentorship that way.
Hmm.
For me, the more valuable part has been getting the outside perspective.
Right.
And the four people that I listed, plus a couple more, I don't go to them all for the same thing. They all strategically for me provide different parts. They're all friends, and I would, go out to dinner, grab a drink with any of them at any time
Mhm.
for any reason, but I do go to them for different issues and different problems. And to a person, my, circle of people that I've surrounded myself with, they will always say, when I come with a problem or something I'm trying to work on, tell me more. What do you think the solution is? They're always very constructive. It's never, if I were you, I would do this. It's never, you should. It's never, I would have done that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those kinds of statements are
Yeah.
actually negative, disguised as, some kind of positive feedback, but you're
Well,
going to,
yeah, it's really rare to find somebody that says, tell me more. That is
right.
really rare. I love that you've got friends and, people in your circle that have that approach. It's so easy for others to just, you know, give their opinion
Yeah.
without asking. I come across that all the time. I mean, I had a just not to steal the thunder, but just to make a point, I hired a personal trainer in a gym,
Mhm.
and the first thing he had me do was these, swinging the ropes, and he didn't even ask me, "Do you have any sort of issues with your joints or anything?" I
Right.
ended up, getting injured, right? It was the day one. So I love that you've got friends, and no doubt that's how you approach your clients as well. Tell me more. Tell me
Right.
more. Tell me more. So what is most important to you? Well, what have you tried so far? I love that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
sorry,
Because
continue.
you're going to someone, you're going to a trainer at a gym, you're going to, we mentioned the electrician, the dentist, me, your friend, you're going to them because you already know you have a problem.
Mhm.
You're aware of it. That's why you're bringing it up. You're like, I need to fix this, or I want to fix this, or I'm trying to figure out how to get through this. That's why it's coming out of your mouth. So then to on the other side of it, to hear, well, I would have done this, or I could have done that, or if I were you, I would do this. There's a joke that's like the favorite thing for an engineer to say to another engineer is I wouldn't have done it that way, right? I used to work with a lot of engineers through one, but um, that attitude, it's okay, but I guess that's, for me, I've just come to understand that that doesn't help me.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah,
I need
absolutely.
I need someone that
And that
maybe before,
that
but
perspective, gives you that fresh set of, perspectives as well. Because we do, as entrepreneurs, it's typical to just be in our own bubble. So yeah, and the work that you do is just so important on so many different levels. Obviously, for businesses to remain solvent, but individuals, as you mentioned, just right down to, hey, we just want to create the best lifetime for our family, for ourselves, and so just that impact, is really helping people to achieve those new levels of peace, of happiness, joy, financial stability. It creates a huge ripple effect. It's basically it's infinite, in my opinion, which is why I
that's
love the work that I do, because I can see the infinite ripple effects. So Andrew, I'm just curious. There have probably been a lot of listeners that have been kind of like a tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. Maybe I better take some action here. So, what would be the best next step for listeners who are curious about the possibility of working with you or just want to learn more?
Yeah, I wouldn't, if you're listening and you'd like to continue the conversation, I invite you to, I'm providing a form link here. You can fill out your name and email and I can stay in touch with you that way. Also my LinkedIn profile, because my last name is Quebbemann. It's Q with a whole mess of letters after it. It's one of the more unique names out there, so I happen to be very easy to find on the internet that way. And
Yeah,
all my,
look in the show notes for the link to his form. And so filling out that form, they'll be able to schedule a time with you, or you'll reach back to them?
Yeah, I'll reach back out to you. We'll just continue the conversation, really.
Okay.
It's difficult, obviously, to provide, specific things. If you're curious about something very specific on your mind, happy to point you in that direction.
Mhm.
But right now, I find just the conversation to keep that going is the most valuable, and that's what I offer to everyone.
All right. Fantastic. That's nothing better than the gift of time and expertise. So thank you so much for that, Andrew. And thank you again for sharing your journey and really expanding our view for what's possible with just a little bit of expert perspective, advising, mindful decisions that can truly create uh, a lifetime that is different than so many people end up, white knuckling it when one little thing happens, right? So you create that stability, that clarity. So it's just so important, the work that you do. So thank you so much for your time here and for the work you do.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought after and well-paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So if you're a heart-centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So check out the show notes. All right. Well, this is Wendy Vaughan signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.